What happens when you take a powerful amplifier like the ZK-HT21 and add a proper three-way HiFi crossover? Can it actually make the sound cleaner, more balanced, and more detailed? That's exactly what I'm going to find out. But in this video, I'm not going to test the sound yet. Today, I want to take a closer look at this three-way HiFi crossover, explain how it works, show you the important components, and explain why I decided to use this type of crossover with the ZK-HT21. And in my next video, I'll connect everything together and put it to a real-world sound test. So let's take a closer look. What is this crossover? This is a three-way passive speaker crossover designed to separate the audio signal into three different frequency ranges. The three sections are bass, mid-range, and treble. Instead of sending the entire audio signal directly to every speaker, the crossover divides the signal and sends the appropriate frequencies to the appropriate driver. The low frequencies go to the woofer. The middle frequencies go to the mid-range speaker. And the high frequencies go to the tweeter. This is important because each speaker driver is designed to work best within a certain frequency range. A woofer is designed to move a lot of air and reproduce low frequencies. A mid-range driver handles the frequencies where many instruments, vocals, and other important details are located. And the tweeter is designed to reproduce the high frequencies that give music its brightness and detail. So instead of asking one speaker to reproduce everything, the crossover helps divide the job between different drivers. Looking at the components. Now let's look at the crossover itself. The first thing that immediately stands out are these large red air core inductors. These coils are an important part of the crossover network. They work together with capacitors and other components to control which frequencies are allowed to pass through each section. The large inductors are especially interesting because they are physically quite large compared with the small components you normally see on simple speaker crossover boards. You can also see several film capacitors in the center of the board. These capacitors are another important part of the frequency filtering network. Together, the inductors and capacitors create different filter sections for the bass, mid-range, and treble. There are also electrolytic capacitors on the board. Each component has a specific job, and the combination of these components determines how the audio signal is divided. So although this board looks relatively simple, there is actually quite a lot happening electrically. Bass, mid-range, and treble. If you look closely at the markings on the board, you can see the different sections clearly labeled. There is a bass section. There is a mid-range section. And there is a treble section. This makes the board much easier to understand when connecting it to a speaker system. The basic idea is simple. The amplifier sends the full audio signal into the crossover. The crossover then separates that signal into different frequency ranges. The bass output is connected to the woofer. The mid-range output goes to the mid-range driver. And the treble output goes to the tweeter. This is why a three-way crossover can be very useful when building a multi-driver speaker system. Why use a crossover with the ZK-HT21? Now let's talk about the ZK-HT21. This is the amplifier board that I plan to use with this crossover. The goal here is not simply to make the system louder. I want to see how the amplifier and crossover work together as a complete audio system. The amplifier provides the power. The crossover manages the frequency distribution. And the individual speaker drivers reproduce their assigned frequency ranges. That combination is what makes a multi-way speaker system interesting. However, there is one very important thing to understand. A crossover does not magically improve every speaker. The final sound depends on many factors. The amplifier matters. The crossover design matters. The speaker drivers matter. The enclosure matters. The wiring matters. And even the crossover points and speaker sensitivity can affect the final result. That's why I don't want to simply say that this crossover will automatically make the ZK-HT21 sound better. I want to actually test it. The connection. For the upcoming test, I will connect the ZK-HT21 amplifier to the input of this three-way crossover. Then the crossover outputs will be connected to the appropriate speaker drivers. The low-frequency output will go to the woofer. The mid-frequency output will go to the midrange driver. And the high-frequency output will go to the tweeter. The important thing is to make sure the positive and negative terminals are connected correctly. Incorrect polarity can affect the way the speakers work together, especially around the crossover regions. So when I build the system, I will take my time and double-check every connection before applying power. This is especially important when working with a powerful amplifier. What I want to find out. There are several things I really want to find out from this experiment. First, how clean is the bass? Second, does the midrange sound clear and natural? Third, can the tweeter produce detailed high frequencies without sounding too harsh? And most importantly, how well do all three sections blend together? That's something you can't fully understand just by looking at the crossover board. You have to listen to it. And that's why the next test is going to be much more interesting. I want to hear whether this combination actually produces a noticeable difference. Why I'm not testing it in this video. You might be wondering why I'm not connecting everything and testing the sound right now. The reason is simple. I want this video to focus on the hardware and the setup. Before testing anything, I want to understand what we're working with. I want to show you the crossover. I want to explain the components. And I want to prepare the system properly before the actual listening test. That way, in the next video, we can focus entirely on performance. No guessing. No assumptions. Just the actual sound. Next video, the real test. And this is where things get interesting. In my next video, I'm going to connect this three-way HiFi crossover directly into the ZK-HT21 system. Then I'll connect the woofer, midrange, and tweeter. After everything is wired and checked, I'll finally turn it on. Then we'll listen carefully to the bass, midrange, and treble. I also want to see how the system performs at different volume levels. Does the sound remain clean when the volume goes up? Is the bass powerful enough? Are the vocals and instruments clear? And does the treble have enough detail? Most importantly, will this crossover actually make the ZK-HT21 sound better? That's the question I want to answer. OUTRO. So for this video, that's our three-way HiFi crossover. It uses a combination of inductors, capacitors, and other components to divide the audio signal into low, mid, and high frequencies. The concept is simple, but the final result depends heavily on how the crossover and speaker drivers work together. And that's exactly why I don't want to make any claims before testing it. In the next video, I'll connect this crossover to the ZK-HT21 and give the complete system a real sound test. We'll find out what happens when the amplifier, crossover, woofer, midrange, and tweeter all work together. Will the sound become cleaner? Will the bass become more controlled? Will the vocals become clearer? And will the high frequencies have more detail? We'll find out. So if you're interested in DIY audio, amplifier projects, speaker upgrades, and real-world sound tests, make sure you follow along for the next video. Because the next part is where we actually turn it on. And listen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.